If your brand belongs in the heart of the yachting world, this is where it happens. Yachting International Radio reaches over 1 million yachting professionals and enthusiasts every month, with 77 million impressions, 220,000 social followers, and 74,000 podcast subscribers. Our hosts are insiders, crew, captains, CEOs, trusted voices shaping the industry. This is targeted, high-impact advertising in a luxury niche. Visit yachtinginternationalradio.com/advertise. Your audience is already listening.
Welcome to this episode of the Superyacht Laundry podcast. Obviously, this is our new refreshed, which is Superyacht Laundry podcast now, rather than Tales from Superyacht Laundry, because it's a bit of a mouthful, so I thought I'd streamline it. And I'm joined today by the gorgeous Erin. How's Australia, Erin?
It's cold.
Yes.
Yes. You beat me on the weather. You beat me on the weather front.
For those who can't see us and you're just listening to this, I am wearing, if you want to put it in the Australian term, a singlet vest. Normal English people. And Erin's wearing a jumper. Ha-ha. It's probably one of the only 5 days of the year that I can wear this in this country, but, I'm the win.
Enjoy.
I'm going to enjoy it. But we did speak, obviously, probably last week, and I did kind of cut you off when you were moaning because, cold to you is like, 15 degrees, 13 degrees. That's not cold. That's not cold. I wouldn't.
Nice summer's day for you.
It's not really jumper material, but, we'll let her slide. So how have you been?
I've been really good. Very well. Busy, just adjusting to life on land. And I think, we spoke and there's been some things that have come up and I think it's really important to share.
So let's obviously refresh ourselves. So when I spoke to you, how long had you been out of the industry?
I'd been out probably 3 months and I'd started my own business, which was really only probably 4 weeks in the thick of it. So it was very new.
Yeah. And even in 4 weeks, this is one of the reasons why, it was fabulous to have you on, because the reason why I wanted to have you on, because you were, my unicorn hospitality person, because obviously, especially for the interior team, women are told after the industry, you can go and work in hospitality, and that it's not true. You can, but it's just not going to be anywhere near the level that you are really qualified to work at. But you, even in 4 weeks, explain where was the first job? What were you doing? And what's developed since then?
So one of the first things that I had landed, it hadn't transpired, it still hasn't transpired into any work, but it had been a yes company, which was a big hotel management company out of Sydney. They had about 14 properties, but really amazing conversations, which is still happening to this day. And it's becoming much bigger than we actually planned on it being in the first place. One of the first paying clients that I did receive, and I'd probably only really been at it for about 7 weeks. And that was one of the biggest holiday letting companies in Queensland. They have about 480 properties and soon to be 1,000 in the next 6 months. And that was amazing for me. They had absolutely no structure. So I went in and I did a business audit on them, looked at, the way that their customer journey was, all of their guest experience for all of the holiday let guests. And there was no protocols or anything in place for their team. So with the expansion, of course, more people come in. No one's following onboarding. There's no company handbook, all of that sort of stuff. So we've done so much work over the last 6 months. And that was the first paying client. From then I had a marine client that came on board. I've just signed an amazing developer. And then there's another couple of two which are like ad hoc stuff as opposed to consistent paying clients. So it's been really amazing. I'm pretty hard on myself, and just with the end of the last financial year, sort of had a look at my P&L and realized I'd earned, more than some people would earn as an average salary. So it's been fantastic. And I think reflecting on that too, I've been working on some really amazing stuff, and I've been working on some things that I I probably wouldn't want to do long term, but you do have to take some of the smaller things to lead to the bigger stuff. And it's important to reflect on that too, so that you can keep the vision quite clear and you can stay on track with what you want, where you want to go.
So with that, I was just obviously talking about, so I know everybody knows somebody who's got like a second property, Airbnb, so obviously the first, big rental property client that you had, is that something that they planned to do, or is something that's ended up happening? Because there's a lot of people out there that have had got one property, then got two, then it's turning into a beast. And now they're looking at customer service. Whereas most people that have got like an Airbnb, they just kind of, it's either to pay the mortgage on that property as an investment or whatever. Is that like a new niche market that they need guidance in, that you've kind of stumbled across? There's a few people out there with massive portfolios of properties now to take it to the next level. Or
I think even just chatting with the directors, we had a very open conversation. And that's a lot of everything that I find myself. I prospect, I cold call, and even just chatting with the directors about what they wanted for their business. And sometimes you can do a discovery call or an uncovery with the staff, and it may go somewhere, it may not go anywhere. But I was able to find multiple gaps in terms of they struggled with the housekeeping companies and the cleanliness levels. And then I was able to really dive into what were they missing? How were they cleaning? What protocols were they following? When it's externally sourced housekeeping, it's very hard for me to have conversations unless the directors have employed me to do so. But, even just I was finding that the cleaning teams were going into the apartments and just using all of the cleaning products that were in privately owned apartments. So you've got, say, 500 owners that all have very different standards, and some people don't want to put money into those things. So I'm like, okay, the cleaning company needs to have their own vacuums that they take in and that they use. Someone could have a little Henry. Someone could have, a commercial vacuum cleaner. So
if you're going to Airbnb, generally you've got the bare minimum. You're lucky if you've got like a bottle of fairy liquid, and sometimes, because it's supposed to be self-catering at the end of the day. Yeah. So a cleaning fee, that it makes logical sense in my head, but that's not what you found.
It's not what they see, no. And I think, all those things in apartments are for if the guest was staying for maybe 5 or 6 days, that they can do those things themselves, or if they had a spill or they needed to clean up to help try and keep the property in check. But the cleaning teams and they're netting from some of these companies, they're making $2 to $3, $4 million a year. So I really look at this and I go, it's not a big ask. You either sharpen your pencil or you lose the contract. So we've been working on that, implementing performance appraisals, reviews. I've also been doing some work where all of these things are in place in businesses, but they're either too frequent or they're missing where their mission statement and their core values are really being introduced to new joiners and onboarding and all that sort of stuff. So it's been great. It's been all of the emotions. It's been lonely. It's been exciting. You do sort of start to question where you're headed. Was it the right decision? It's all of those things.
No, so obviously you'd been back 3 months. Obviously the transition, work-wise is one thing. Like how have you kind of, now you've settled in the social side of things, how is that panning out now?
It's interesting. I mean, I've always been very lucky to have an incredible social life here and a beautiful circle of friends that are basically family. So that has made it a lot easier for me. But I think June 15 was 1 year since I left my last boat. And I think it's more, I think, the emotional transition for who you are and the label that you start to receive on board. I think even when you start to talk about leaving, or you even do, let's say that you're going to leave to the crew, it's, you'll be back. You won't last. It won't be the same. You'll miss this, you miss that. It's this really awful thing that people tend to paint you with. And I genuinely find that they're just jealous they can't take the leap themselves. But socially, I think I work from home. I'm out a lot. I'm out at meetings. I'm in client offices. I'm out with clients quite a bit, but still I have an office at home, and you tend to miss the crew mess, or I think for me, being a purser for the last 6 years of my yachting career was that I was always needed. And I was needed from a perspective of, someone wanting me to mentor them or someone wanting me to just listen to them, give them advice, help them get somewhere in the world, help them figure out how to save money and buy a house. Like there's so many different things that we get asked as pursers. You're really the mum on board or, the HR person, if you will. So I think that has probably hit home the most, is that what I wanted to be needed for and where I felt like I had real purpose. My clients need me, of course, but again, some things go, I love doing that. I don't like doing that. And that's all part of running a business. You have to take the good with the bad. Yeah, socially, I think it's missing the crew and it's being a real pivotal part to some people's lives. You've got some crew that are quite young, and I still have stewardesses that I mentored and led years ago that would love to work for me at some point again in the future, which is beautiful. And I think that's the real amazing piece that you can take away from it.
That's quite, the social side is tricky, when you come out.
Yeah.
Because especially if you've been in a long time, I mean, I've said it loads of times before, making friends is actually quite difficult a lot of the time, especially if you've been on board for like 10 years, you haven't actually had to make, especially it's been mentioned many times before. I mean, luckily you've gone back to a place where, had a base originally.
Yeah.
But obviously having to make friends and then build yourself a community. I probably am getting to, for me personally, where I am in Chichester, because obviously, again, I'd already left where I'm from originally a long time ago, but I'm probably only just kind of getting to a point where I've got that kind of support network. And I've been here 8 years. It takes a long time to kind of build up that base. And like I said, if you forget, because I think when you talk to people about what do you miss, banter. Do you know what I mean? Our job on board is quite mundane and quite boring most of the time.
Yeah.
So what getting through the day is basically messing about.
Totally.
And just cracking jokes all the time. And, it's like, obviously the job that you're in now, you're talking to management and that's all kind of like the higher levels and stuff like that. But like you said, having that direct access to junior crew and just joking around with them and, it can make the day go a lot faster.
Absolutely. And I'm talking with clients so often and I am part of their teams, but I'm assisting them in their company. What I am doing, I'm not at the stage yet of creating my company. I have it, but it's me. And so, when I can grow and have staff and have my own leaderships, because that's essentially really why I created it, was to make a change in the way people are managed and led and the way that we, serve our customers and the experience that they have in all sorts of establishments. But also I want to have something that people really want to work in and for, and they are treated with respect and they are heard and they're managed well and they feel understood and they feel like they can contribute and they're a part of something. And that's really important to me.
Yeah, it's, the team thing is, and that's another, again, I've mentioned it before. Entrepreneurialism is quite lonely in the beginning. You do get some that have started businesses with a partner, a friend, but most of the time it's a lot of graft on your own.
Yeah.
And that is a massive shock to the system when you've been literally working in a really intense team environment for about years.
Yeah. And you sit in it as well and you reflect on, if only I'd done one more season. If only I'd just seen out the year. If only I'd just, there's never a good time to leave, ever. And you can sit
You never have enough money either.
You never have enough money. And you also have to adjust to that. You get very accustomed to living a particular way. I see this, I want this, I buy this. And then, life comes and smacks you dead square in the face. And it's a lot. And I poured a lot of money into my company for the way that it was going to look, see, feel, all of that. And I have learned down the track that I probably didn't need to spend that much. But at the same time, that's a business lesson. And I didn't go broke in learning that lesson, but I have learned some things, and that's all part of business life transition, all of that sort of stuff. And I think one of the biggest things for me and one of the biggest messages that I have to any crew member, and especially females, is that feeling like they have to be funneled into a particular job when they leave the industry. And they have to feel like that they go into something that they instantly love. And it's not the case at all. Even I'm not even a year into my business and I'm already starting to pivot on some of the offerings that I thought I could start out with, or they've grown. Some have grown more than others, or some are transforming into something different. So I think for me, females particularly struggle to see, how can I translate my skill set into a corporate job or into something ashore? And they need to start having conversations with their sounding board, their friends, their family, reach out, because there are so many things that we do on board that are really translatable into the real world outside of working in a restaurant, being a house manager, being a PA. It's amazing how many people I talk to now from hotels, from restaurants, that would die for ex-yacht crew. And I'm like, I know a few that probably
just so happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nice to think that, the secret may be out, that, we have a certain pedigree, I would like to say. There's lots of reasons why we put ourselves on these vessels and graft really hard and stuff like that. It's nice to think that it is being recognized. But I completely agree. Pigeonholing yourself. I was 100% convinced I knew what I wanted to do, spent thousands on it. But now looking back, I should have just come back and experimented, for sure.
Yeah.
Like I should have just, because I was moving to a new location with a newish relationship, getting used to being together all the time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't think you should put too much pressure, but that's very easy to say when you're desperately looking for an anchor point. Excuse the pun. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You're like, I'm changing my job, I'm changing where I live. And you're like, right, the work thing is the anchor bit that will, which, could be true. But, I agree, you kind of need a bit more flexibility. And also with setting up a business as well, we do have a habit of spending loads of money at the beginning. If I've learned anything, spend less, try some stuff. It's sometimes better to have longevity, so you've got more money to last longer and give it a bigger go, than it is necessarily just pumping your life savings into it from the start.
And the biggest part of money that I did spend was really probably designing the business and what that was going to look like, because prior to yachting, I had sales and media experience in radio and television for 7 years. And then, on yachts, and then the range of skills that you can acquire from working at sea. So for me, I was like, I know what I want to do at my core, but I don't know what that looks like. So I spent quite a bit of money with a big creative team sitting in boardrooms. One day we sat in there for nearly 7 hours and we fully hashed out, they were hitting me with questions about, what about, do you like this? Would you do this? Do you like that? And because I knew when people asked me questions, I knew straight away whether I wanted to do that or not. So we really built the business from one of those sessions or multiple sessions. And for that, I wouldn't regret spending a cent at all, because I absolutely love the business, the direction, the name, the style suite, everything about it. But I think that also talks to my message to stewardesses and deck crew, that when you do look at leaving the industry, really think about what it is that makes you feel good. If you want to make a change in something, and also what you're good at. Sometimes you could go, I think I should do this, or I've been told I should do this, but actually I'm really good at this, because that will forever back you in anything that you do, is what you're really good at.
And there's lots of ways to kind of experiment with that on board. We've had Callie on, there's more advanced like dynamic testing now, We've got a lady there, lots of businesses have done it. Basically, it was kind of to help teams function better. Obviously, a lot of companies now use it in the hiring process to get the right mentality of person. but you don't have to do it just in that setting. You can actually use it as an exploration tool to kind of see what you're leaning to, because you might not really know. And especially if you've been in such a rigid onboard environment, like how the hell would you know? You know, because you are on autopilot all of the time. And because you're on autopilot, it might be quite difficult at times to distinguish what you actually like and what's just because it's just coming easy because you do it all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I think
it's okay.
I think that's also why people get into this really unhealthy to and fro from the industry, because when they leave, they go, oh my God, I miss it so much. And then they get offered a delivery or a temp gig or something and they jump back at it and they're like, oh, why am I back here? And it's like really having to sit in, because for a moment, people always ask me still, do you miss it? Do you miss it? And I'm like, not really. I miss seeing my mates. I don't have to pay to see them. Like I get flown to them and you have your people on board and things like that. But do I miss sleeping in a cabin? Absolutely not. Do I miss some of the politics and drama? Absolutely not. The paycheck? Sure. But I worked for that. And so I think it's also, because even with Choo, you can come home for 2 months at a time, but in 6 months, you can work 12 months. Like they will make sure that they get,
they get every single, in your case, dollar out of you as,
Yes.
Not like
so I think that
relaxing.
Exactly. So I think that's where people get into this unhealthy in, out, because they think they miss the money and they go back and they realize, oh my God, it's actually not that worth it. They think they miss the people, they go back, there's so much drama. They think they miss this. And for me, I actually had my niece and my nephew stay with me for a week on their own. So they, I was kind of mum for the week for them. But when they left, I was really sad. And I was like, why am I so sad about this? But it made me, for a week, I had 2 little people that I had to do everything for them. I had purpose to make sure that they slept, that they ate, that they were showered, that they were, looked after. And I think that's when it really hit home to me that I missed having people that really needed me as a person. They do. And I think that was the solidifying moment for me as to what it was that I missed. Sometimes, and in any business, in anything, especially when it's all on you. One day one week I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is going to double. This is going to triple. I'm going to be a multimillionaire. And then other days I'm like, this sucks. I'm going to go back to the supermarket, because it is all on you. And you can try and forecast the year and go, wow, if I keep this up, I'm going to have an amazing year. And then people say, you get 4 no's, 5 no's from prospects and you think, this is so shit. Why can't I do this? And I think that's the other thing too, as much as we do come from this elite world, people can go, wow, that's amazing. But if they've never experienced it, they actually don't understand it. If you really wanted to show people what you can do, you would have to take them with you for a week, show them, and they are like, oh my God. You absolutely have to be in our world.
What are you trying to say, Erin? That Below Deck doesn't give an honest view of the actual yachting?
That is most ridiculous. If I watch that show, I'm like, tie your hair up, put your shoes on, get your fingers off the plate. Like I just cannot.
It's stress. We actually, we had the lovely Daisy on the podcast, and I tried to watch. I think I got halfway through the second episode. I'm just like. It was just winding me up. It was just the whole thing was just winding me up. Like, this is not how we do it. This is not how it goes. But I suppose the secret of what we do is still out there because they're not portraying what we actually do.
And I get asked that all the time. Like, is it accurate? I'm like, let me tell you, first of all, it's highly unlikely you'll get a 3-day charter. That's total bull. It's like,
no, it's not. It's not anything like that. So our secret is still safe in some respects. Still safe. The needing thing, to be needed. Children are, and that's how especially in the first few months of having Esme, they are the ultimate charter guest. Do you know what I mean? Like they need you all of the time. They just don't tip, which is just really annoying.
I'm sure they try to give you multiple tips, but they're verbal. And you're like,
I've said it before, they're little Russian charter guests that just constantly hungry, don't know what they want, wanting stuff at really weird hours, expecting you to pull said rabbit out of a hat, it's quite intense. And like I said, they never get off, they never tip, but they are cute. Cute to the Russian charter guest. Yeah. Depending on the day. But yeah, the needing thing, there was, on board, there is always something to do. There's always something to attend to. You are hyper-focused on other people and not yourself, which obviously, covered loads of times. Yeah. You can swing it too far and be too focused on everybody else.
Yeah.
Yourself.
Yeah.
Now you've got your own, obviously saying you want to expand, the Yacht dream is to expand the business.
Yeah.
Now you've kind of sat in it for a while now. You were saying that the vision is getting clearer, but you do have to you have to be able to pivot. I love that word.
You do.
You've got to have that flexibility, because thinking that you'll like one thing and want to do one thing and then actually doing it, not the same.
Yeah. And I think also too, for what people that when they leave the industry is, you have to understand that no's are okay and no's are actually great. But if you hear the same no multiple times, maybe it's time to pivot. But hearing no 5, 6 times, that's okay. Don't let go of what you want to do. Don't let go of the vision and don't stop trying, because those people just may not be for you in whatever it is that you're doing. There's a lot of times that I hear no, or, we are interested. It's just the wrong timing. And I'm like, that's fine. Okay, cool. If I hear the same no 5, 6, 7 times, I start to go, if I hear this another 6, maybe this isn't going to land. And maybe this is something I shouldn't really be offering or doing. I think probably the really daunting thing for people leaving the industry is that they hear 4 or 5 no's and they're like, oh God, I'm a failure. I need to go back to a boat. This is never going to work. It will work, and it does take time. I'm very hard on myself. I'm incredibly tenacious and don't really allow people to say no to me, but they still do. But I keep chasing and chasing and chasing. And that can be tiring, because you just want people to understand where you're coming from, who you are, what you offer. I think it's also been, you've got to be careful about offering some complementary services so that you can show people what you do, get in the door, but then also at the same time, don't cheapen your offering, because you are very valuable. I started out calling myself a consultant. It's kind of what I am, but then I also dropped the word consultant, because some people think, here's another consultant wanting to charge, $800 an hour, come in, piss off, and I'm none the wiser. And that's absolutely not what I do. So, even just learning what language will land in the market as well, you've got to be really willing to listen and be in tune with how people are responding to you.
It's quite true, isn't it? Language is important, and I suppose, I'm not trying to get into your head, but putting the consultant in there, I would say would be quite natural, because, you are kind of, fulfilling that role. But to have the understanding that perhaps, you kind of, it's more subtly saying you haven't got authority, but you have. One of the things when we talked the other day that just cracked me up, but it's so true. You found a perfect way to basically say, bullshit, this is all wrong. But you have you've worked out the diplomatic way of, you were saying about obviously I can see what you're doing right, but we can build on that. We can add to that rather than basically going, oh my God, how are you still in business?
Yes. I think I said, I'm not coming in to change anything. I'm going to look at what you currently do and elevate that.
Elevate, that's it. Possibly the best way to say you're doing it wrong, but I'm going to help you.
You're doing it wrong. I'm going to help. Because it's very daunting when someone says, because it's also the number one question I get asked is, what's your approach? And when I met this big developer, he sort of said to me, like, how do you think you can help us? And I was like, how would you like me to help you? Because there's some things I'm very aware of what I'm very good at, and I know where I wouldn't even go near. I get asked, some of the hotels I speak to, I get asked if I can do a revenue analysis and make sure that they're getting as much revenue as they can out of their rooms. Now, personally, I think if you have outstanding customer service and incredible reviews, that would naturally take care of itself. But there is a formula and a science behind it. I would never touch that because I'm not good at it. I don't know what I'm doing. If I said I did, I'd be lying. And all I ever want is an incredible result for the client. So if I started to touch that, I'm going to stuff it up. And I have a reputation too, as well as they have to get results.
I mean, that's quite strong. You're criticizing yourself about that. I don't believe any of those things that you would stuff it up because you're not that kind of person. You would obviously make sure that you could do it properly before you executed it. But going back to what you said at the very beginning of what that statement was, if you're providing really good customer service and service in general, cleanliness, all of those things are elevated and you are getting the reviews, that makes complete sense that one would look after the other. You are getting the impact that you want from customers. Pricing and stuff like that, then that could just be a formula. But I wouldn't probably, that makes a lot of sense. Because otherwise you're overcomplicating it. It's not a magic formula to why somebody goes back to a hotel. It's how they felt in the hotel and how they felt. If they felt we also talked about this, you were saying about that you had an amazing breakfast the other day.
Yes, I did.
At the local surf club. Yeah.
It's just not the place that you would expect to have incredible service, amazing food, at a fairly reasonable price, which is amazing. That's how it should be. But especially in Australia, we have seen customer service plummet and the cost of living skyrocket. So, I have no problem paying the money. But when I look down at the receipt and I compare my service and the way that everything was executed in my visit, was it worth it? And unfortunately, at the moment, 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. We have some incredible operators here in Australia, specifically on the Gold Coast where I am, but some hit it out of the ballpark and others, our government makes it expensive for operators. Therefore, so when they've done a new development, something new is opening, the time is ticking, the longer that they delay their open, the more money that they're losing. So we tend to see a bunch of kids get given a t-shirt and just run out on the floor and they have absolutely no idea what they're doing. They, in this younger generation of don't really know how to look you in the eye, don't really know how to greet you properly, don't really care what you're saying. And I hear a lot of operators tell me that you just can't find good staff anymore. And I don't completely disagree with that statement, but I think it's fairly wrong because when I talk to clients, I do one-on-ones with staff. And a lot of the times the director will say these particular pillars within the business are their absolute everything. And that's what they do every single task on. That's their mission statement for all things. If I ask, say, 70% of the staff why the business is the business, they have no idea. So I don't knock them for not knowing. I go, okay, that instantly highlights to me that there's a gap in your onboarding. And if that business is your bread and butter,
it's like one of those things, you're not bought into it.
No.
You know what I mean? You're not bought into the company because you don't even know what it's about, what the reason is. There's no story behind it. So you don't feel part of the story.
No.
So, that leads to apathy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think on the flip side too, I will say to the manager, do you know why every single staff member's here? And they're like, they want a job. I'm like, no, but do you really know why they're here? Like, is that person here for 6 months because they want to save to go on their European holiday? Is that person here because they want to become a manager or a CEO? I so often hear that people want more responsibility and they don't get that because operators instantly think that they want to be a manager. And I'm like, they actually just want to handle inventories. And they're like, oh, is that it? I'm like, yeah, that will make them stay another 3 years. And they're like, they could have it. So I'm like, why are you not having these conversations? And I'll tell you a quick story on a particular case, which was alarming, sad, but also great outcome. there was a business that wanted to fire a particular staff member because she was always late. She was getting later and later each day. And their answer was like, we're just going to fire her. And I was like, before we fire her, has anyone asked her why she's late? Like, is there something going on? Or, she got a car? Is she catching public transport? They're like, no, it's just, we're just done. We're going to fire her. I said, please, before you pull the trigger, can you please just have a conversation? Anyway, it turned out that the young girl was unfortunately being abused by her mum's boyfriend. So she wasn't going home. She was sleeping in her car. And the job was the only thing that she had in her life that made her feel like she was part of something. And she got a clean uniform. Anyway, the operators felt awful and they were like, oh my God, like we are so happy we had that conversation. We can't imagine that person in that situation just loses their job. That's it. They have nothing now. And they openly said to her, what do you need from us? How can we get you back on your feet? What can we do to make you feel safe and help? And really open conversation. She was like totally improved on her performance. She just absolutely loved being part of the family even more. And it just goes to show that not every situation can be helped, and some people can't. Some people do just want their paycheck. They want to get there. They want to go home. End of story. But I feel like now we've got the younger generation that aren't what we used to be. But at the same time, they're a bit smarter in the fact that they know when we ask a question, we either care or we don't. Yeah. So we're ticking a box or it's coming from our heart because we actually give a shit.
It's tricky with, I wouldn't want to be them if I'm really honest, the younger generation. Because it is really, it was in our local national press yesterday, what's wrong with them, COVID years, the internet, smartphones, all of those kind of things, parenting styles, like there's no way on earth. Like I was working on markets when I was like 10. I kind of use the word loosely, there was no childcare. So, at weekends, my aunt and uncle, we used to help exchange money, take payments and stuff like really early on.
Yes.
Like those first Saturday job was like 14, working in a salon, like washing hair, sweeping floors, doing that kind of stuff. But that was
basin gal.
Yeah, but like making tea, coffee, all of that kind of jazz. But tenner, I was minted. Because that £10 back in the day went really far. Like I could get into a club, get a couple of drinks, or I could steal vodka from my parents, go to the club and then get a taxi home. Blam.
Yes. The latter.
They were saying yesterday in the news, it's all very well as saying that, but the wages aren't great. So, these Saturday job, weekend jobs, they're fucking grafting their asses off, and then when they come out at the end, the cinema costs 40 quid to go to for two kids, 2 hot dogs. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not the same as what it was. I could stretch out, going to a club, buying a CD or cassette, something loud.
Yeah.
Doing some bits and pieces with, it's not the same anymore.
It's not the same here either. And I've got quite a few friends in business and most of their employees have to be casual because if they're on a salary and they don't want to work and they just don't show up, they take their sick day and it can really affect the business. But I mean, you won't find really a nice, comfortable place to live in Australia, especially on the Gold Coast and Queensland. We're the fastest growing city in the Southern Hemisphere right now. And you won't find anything decent to rent for less than $950 per week. It's close to £500 a week.
Even what it cost me a month when I moved out.
You won't get that.
And I was probably making, paying rent and bills most of the time was 50% of my salary for the month. And then I had 50% to do stuff. That's not the case anymore.
No. But I'm there for employers and staff too, because even as a purser, when crew would want to come and talk to me about situations for them or advice in the workplace, I would happily listen day in, day out till all hours of the night sometimes. But I would say to them, if I have to have this conversation with you 3 times, you're not helping yourself. I'm out. You got to, like, this works both ways here. So for when I go into companies, I'm there for the employer. Yes. And I'm also there for the staff member. But it's, they have to both understand that they've both got to give.
It is like I said, business is changing all of the time. And I also think when starting a new business, that's why understanding you do need, and I know I joke about the word pivot, but you do need that flexibility because the world is changing at a rapid rate of knots. You know, since we started Pearls, and even since I started the podcast, just the recording platform that we use for the podcast has changed immensely. Like it's just unrecognizable with the amount of stuff that it can do. So, we are unfortunately at a time with business and work where you just hold on to your hats really, because change is literally, we're living it, which I don't think this much change in such a short amount of time has happened since really.
And I also think I get asked a lot about AI, especially in hospitality here, especially in hotels. And you'll be very interested to know that a lot more of the reviews now, if there's complaints, that they're angry because they didn't get to talk to a person on the phone or they didn't. So I will never sit here and say, I really genuinely don't think that AI will replace us. And it just physically can't for so many things. I think it can really help efficiencies and I think it can enhance some of the things that we do, but it will never replace us. And I'm seeing it more and more in accommodation, hotels, restaurants, even just booking something on the phone. It's got a long way to go in that sense. But we won't be replaced.
The human element cannot be replaced. Do you know what I mean? That human experience. I think one of the things I've noticed, especially with hotels and stuff like that, because obviously the world has kind of fallen out of favor with hotels. That's why they've stuck a load of migrants in ours. But the ones that are going, they're creating an experience. They're creating a new, unique visual experience. Like we're going to play with the 1920s decor. So it's kind of going to be a little bit over the top, but not too much. It maybe resonates with the original structure of the building or Georgian, or it's going to go ultra modern and high slick. So it's kind of an out there kind of experience visually, the bog standard hotel kind of experience. I think that's where a lot of hotels are falling out of fashion necessarily. But I think, like you said, I think with AI you have to embrace or die. But I do 100% agree that, you end up getting bogged down trying to talk to a bot or whatever when most of the time a quick phone call. And the only reason we fell out with phone calls is because they started outsourcing them to random countries. Do you know what I mean? That can't, again, customer service is about resonating with somebody who understands the life that you're living. And, I don't know, in the early 2000s, outsourcing call centers to, different parts of Asia was very popular for big corporates. I remember one certain bank, it was horrendous trying to talk to somebody and explain. So I think, it all comes around in circles. We, when it's gone, we work out what we miss.
Yeah.
And then you start bringing it back,
Yeah, absolutely.
But young people, unfortunately, getting hammered from all directions. AI, the Airbnb.
And a lot. It's a lot.
There's, and, salaries, living wage, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be young. But we're here to support you. We are here to support you. So obviously now you've embedded into your business and all these things are going. What would your advice be to, updates to your advice be to, a lady on board, purser, trying to work out what she's going to step off and do? What's your...
Have you had quite a few people reach out, to be honest, and sort of just want to hash some things out, have a chat, ask about some of the things that I did for myself. I think, like, the biggest thing I really honestly can say is there's never a good time or the right time. There'll always be some excuse. There'll always be a really dear friend of mine's recently just left, and we actually laugh now because she's like, oh, I shouldn't have just done this. I shouldn't have just done that. I could have bought this. I could have bought that. And I'm like, I am loving being at home. I love going for my beach walks every morning. I love going to the gym. I love the freedom and the autonomy to just do what I want, cook what I want, eat when I want. Of course, there'll be elements that I miss because it's a huge part of my life. And it gave me so much about myself that has helped in my professional growth, my personal growth, a lot of that. But I think that we all really do need to understand that yachting really isn't forever. And we do live in this odd, warped sense of reality that can actually really affect the way that you see things and you see life. And probably letting go a lot of the materialistic side of things as well has been very humbling for myself. And I've always chased and, wanted a big salary and success. Like, what does success mean to you? What does success look like to you? And I think I've just sat more in the fact that success for me is contentment, and you don't need to have so many flashy things. It's nice to have. Of course, it's nice to have. But what's even nicer is to know that whatever you want to buy from the grocery store, having fuel in your car, wanting to take a holiday and not needing to worry about where the money's coming from for that, because you're going to have to start paying for all your flights and things like that. I think that is really taking a moment to reflect on what success looks like to you. It's different for everyone, of course, and I wouldn't knock anyone's version of success. But I think it's just been a very beautifully humbling moment to realize what it actually does mean.
Yeah. It must, it is a tricky one. And unfortunately, most women that work in the industry have to go. I think, like we said, men can hold on. But I still think even when they retire, it's a massive shock to the system. Because when you're retired, you won't be going around in all the flashy places either. So, it's good. Thank you so much for coming back.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Have you on again. And maybe we could do a live Q&A. If there are people out there that want to ask questions about, especially trying to hack your way into the corporate world, the hospitality world, feel free to, we'll perhaps do some questions when this podcast episode is released so people can send them to you. Obviously, your details of your company will be in all of the details below. But it's kind of quite a nice live time update to what's going on. Yeah. Because it is really tricky. And your story, you're being really honest. It is hard, but you're still looking at it in a positive way. So no, it's
you
really
have
nice.
to. Otherwise, it will eat you alive. And I'm on my own fertility journey at the moment, and there's a number of different things in my life that, have all come at once and can feel very overwhelming. But I think that you do have to remember that everything that you go through, there's some lesson in it, whatever it may be, because you don't know what that may be until it's past and you've got hindsight. But I think for me, one of the big messages too is we have so many beautiful, talented, amazing individuals on boats, and don't ever let anyone dampen what you want to do, what you think you're capable of. I just really encourage everyone to get creative, put themselves out there, be brave. You do have to just jump, and you have to just risk sometimes everything, but you'll always be caught by something, and it might not look like what you thought it was going to look like, but you'll always be okay. And I think that we just have, I get upset when people feel trapped on boats because they shouldn't need to. They have incredible talent, and they should start talking about, start writing dreams down and start looking at your skill set, soundboarding that with people, because it's really important. And we just have so many incredible people that can do great things wherever they go.
Yes. Great things wherever we go. I quite like that. hopefully we'll be able to
Yeah.
get you come this side of the planet sometime soon.
I'm heading over in August. I'm there for a week, but it's a tight turnaround. But hopefully maybe we could do a live Q&A together. We can sit next to each other with a glass of vino or something.
I'm up for that. I'm really up for that. Now I've got some new microphones as well. So like we could do
Yeah, there you go.
If you can squeeze me into that week, yay.
Yay.
Other than that, again, I'll just have to try and make loads of money so I can come over to Australia and visit everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Although
So
I do,
good.
I have to say, is there a Bluey theme park? Do you know if there's a Bluey
Yes,
theme park?
I took my niece and nephew there, and I must say, it's actually amazing. It's really cool.
Okay, so yeah, my daughter, I think if we do come over, there's got to be a Bluey theme park to go to.
Cost me an absolute fortune, but it's so worth it. So worth it.
So for all those people that don't have children, you will know eventually because Bluey will go on forever.
Katy Perry, the theme song in her concert in Brisbane. She's like, like my daughter's obsessed with Bluey, and yeah, she did it on the stage. It was quite sweet.
It is honestly, I can openly admit I've cried at episodes.
It's beautiful. They've got some really amazing messages for kids.
Yeah.
It's really
well, no, and adults as well. But yeah, we'll check in.
Yeah.
When we've started to watch more episodes, really.
Yeah. Thanks for having
thank
me.
you. It's a pleasure as always. Dear listeners, if you enjoyed that episode of this new, refreshed Superyacht Laundry podcast, I advise you to go and check out some more. We've got some absolute corkers coming out. So yeah, until the next time, see you later. G'day.
G'day. Goodbye.
Oops.